Darren Reed in Valley View, Alberta, Canada, tells the following sad story of a disagreement between two brothers. The story goes like this. Between two farms near Valley View, Alberta, you can find two parallel fences, only 2 feet apart, running for a half a mile. Now, why are there two fences when there should be only one? Well, the two farmers, Paul and Oscar, had a disagreement that erupted into a feud. Paul wanted to build a fence between their land and split the cost, but Oscar was unwilling to contribute. And since he wanted to keep cattle on his land, Paul went ahead and built the fence anyway. And after the fence was completed, Oscar said to Paul, "I see we have a fence here." "What do you mean we?" Paul replied. "I got the property line surveyed and built the fence 2 feet into my land. That means some of my land is outside the fence. And if any of your cows set foot on my land, I'll shoot them." Now, Oscar knew Paul wasn't joking, so he eventually decided to use the land adjoining Paul's for pasture, and he was forced to build another fence 2 feet away. Oscar and Paul are both now looking at a double fence standing as a monument to the high price they paid for their stubbornness. There should never be a fence put up between any two believers. You need to get conflict resolved quickly. Now, Paul tells the story of two sisters who had a fence between them. He said, "I plead with Euodia and Syntyche to be of the same mind in the Lord. Yes, I ask you, my true companion, help those women, since they have contended at my side in the cause of the gospel, along with Clement and the rest of my co-workers, whose names are in the book of life." Now imagine Paul finding it necessary, to write a letter that would be publicly read, informing there are two members of the Philippian church that they need to stop disagreeing with one another. We know nothing about the dispute between these two Christian women. Even though the particulars around why Euodia and Syntyche, their dispute, remain uncertain, one thing remains totally certain. These two ladies experienced a major disagreement. Now, they had contended at Paul's side, meaning they had served with him in ministry. I believe these two women had leadership positions in the church. Now, we don't really know that, but I think that's true. And perhaps their dispute had the potential of splitting the church, as people could and would eventually take sides. And Paul, in his concern for them, appealed for them, "Come on, girls, be of the same mind in the Lord." In no uncertain words, the apostle told them to get their act together and make up with each other. Paul is saying, get that conflict resolved, and quickly. And then Paul went a step further. He begged them to resolve their differences, even if it meant securing a third party to help them resolve their conflict. The mediator suggested to assist them remains nameless. That's kind of weird. Just like their dispute is nameless. He was asked by Paul to help these women resolve their differences. Do you have any unresolved differences between a brother or sister? Have you had words between you and someone close to you? Are other believers taking sides in your disagreement? Love between believers should override any differences. Jesus said, "By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." I wish everyone could have a marriage like Peter Wilson and Cornelia. They were married 80 years. Concerning conflict, Peter said, "Some days she wants to have cabbage, and I want greens. These are the only kinds of disagreements that we have." But chances are you will have a dispute with someone close to you over things more important than cabbage and greens. And maybe even between a husband and a wife who both know the Lord, they'll come to an impasse. Or maybe there'll be a fight between a fellow Christian brother or sister, and it'll get ugly as words and accusations fly. Get the conflict resolved quickly, even if you have to ask the help of a mediator. Get conflict resolved quickly before it goes too far. There was a lady who wanted to bring a monkey to live in her house. Her husband objected. He said, "You mean he's going to eat at our table?" She looked at him and said, "Yeah." He said, "You mean that monkey is going to sit in our living room?" She said, "Yeah." He said, "You mean that monkey is going to sleep in our bed?" She said, "Yeah." He said, "What about the stink?" She said, "You'll get used to it. I suppose the monkey will too." Whoa! Get conflict resolved quickly before everything stinks.